Hello and welcome back to the Radio Games Club. Here today, as always, your host Ryan, joined today by my lovely duo of co-hosts Alex and Brett.
It
Wow.
it does not feel like it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah,
for
we've
this.
been doing some wacky episodes lately. If you missed the podcast feed, actually last week we did do a normal episode, but we did the Arkham game cast. But if you're missing the weeks that we haven't had a podcast, there's always something going up on the YouTube channel with fancy gameplay. We did Guilty Gear and we did Hell Let Loose, so go check those out if you're missing the 001 content.
And Anthem.
Anthem, that was a bonus episode.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to talk about some games that I think are concernedly much better than Anthem.
All of them.
I don't think that's controversial.
It was a good pickings.
Yep. We got some good pickings. Why I couldn't make it because this episode has been a scheduling nightmare. As you can see, Alex has moved.
Hi.
Between the last one and this one. So yeah.
My walls are no
busy
longer
week.
red.
Yep. Busy week. We're going to get this episode done so we can talk about the next set of games. And then we'll get that happening. So we'll have another one in a month. Back into the cadence. Let's go ahead and kick ourselves off today by talking about SD Gundam Battle Alliance. This is the Brett. This was your pick, I believe.
Yes, it was.
Give
This
us
is
the
one of those
spiel.
games. It's one of those games where, first of all, I didn't expect this to show up on Game Pass ever because it came out like I think it came out a year ago.
It's
it
pretty
didn't
recent,
instantly, yeah. But it didn't immediately release on Game Pass. I was just like, oh, this is a game on Steam that I'll pick up eventually because it has my boys in it. But it's an action RPG with some cool character abilities depending on which of the mobile suits from the Gundam franchise you play as. It operates in a similar fashion as the Super Robot Wars games do, where it's a crossover between the different timelines of the franchise. And so the kind of one of the whole points of the game is to see how this person from the Universal Century reacts when they're fighting this person from Gundam 00 or something. Which is always fun. I love seeing stuff like that. I'd wish like this wasn't such a non-Western dev thing to do because I feel like we just don't really have that outside of Mortal
Give us
Kombat.
more crazy
Um,
crossovers. I want to
I
see
think-
Kratos fight Master Chief.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I
it'd be
feel like
fun.
the closest we have to that is the what was the Warner Brothers fighting game? Smash Clone.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Multiverses.
Multiverses.
But even then, I feel like a lot of the Western interpretation of that is like, oh, and then they fight. But it's like, no, I want to hear them like talk to each other. I want to hear both of these characters like Char from the original series and one of the 90 million Char clones from all of the other series that are very much just based off of him like talking to each other and calling each other stupid and disagreeing or agreeing. Like that's fun. That's like because that breaks down those individual characters in ways that you can't really do in their canon appearances. But honestly, from that kind of wacky story point of view, the game goes immediately into that. You really do not have to wait long at all for the timelines to start warping, and it's like if you've ever played Dragon Ball Xenoverse, where the whole point of the game is to you join this institution to make sure the timelines are correct, and you go through parts of the story of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z where things have gone wrong or not how they're supposed to, and you have to fix them and do them right, or help Goku or the villain or whatever make things how they're supposed to be. And that it's a super fun spin on stories that we already know. They don't have to be rehashed because now you have a new way of tackling them. And in terms of gameplay, I mean, I didn't really have any problems learning it. It wasn't a very difficult game control-wise, and it wasn't a very difficult game difficulty-wise. I honestly forget if there was a difficulty selection aside from just whatever they throw at you.
I think there's like a
but-
hard or a normal selection. I vaguely remember this, but yeah, we played this game a while back. We played some multiplayer of it, and I think generally had a good time. But this is like as baseline as a brawler can be, I think, of like a 3D
Yeah.
character brawler. Probably because there's so many characters, but it does definitely I think the way that the combat mechanics here work, your characters wind up feeling very similar, even if they're pretty different, which is
Yeah.
good for picking up and playing something, but doesn't feel as great from the perspective of like trying a different character.
Yeah. It seems like the thing where I'm sure if Wyatt were with us today, he would bash it for being uninteresting, and the response to that is being, well, if you like the people that you're playing as, that's your reason to play.
Yeah,
You
it's
shouldn't
a
go
Gundam
into this
fan
game. Yeah, you shouldn't go into this game play. It's the same thing as the Super Robot Wars games. You shouldn't go into any kind of game like this expecting the most in-depth, crazy action RPG, or in Super Robot Wars' case, strategy RPG, combat. It's just to see, like, oh, what would happen if these two people clashed? Or I want to
that's not to say
play.
it doesn't have mechanics. Like there are some
No, yeah,
fun
it's
things.
there are
Of, like,
things.
you basically have kind of like an equivalent of a Guilty Gear Roman cancel for your mech, where you can like burst, and that does different things based on what thing you use it after, which is really cool. But you don't learn that you have access to that until pretty deep in. Like I think I only learned that after we were done playing by going through the advanced tutorials, which the game does not like prompt you to go to at all. So
Hey,
I
we
wish
know
I
what,
had thought to do that earlier.
and hey, we know what Roman cancel means now. If
Yeah, you guys have
you
been
see one of
learning
our
lessons
previous videos.
about Roman canceling. And yeah, I think it's legitimately that does help extend the game a lot, but those aren't unique per character. And so I think it's like it becomes a case of like you have your one ultimate ability, which is your big character special, and then you have your like character sub weapons. But the sub weapons I think generally don't feel incredibly impactful.
Yeah, not too different either, because a lot of mobile suits just
It's a
have
lot of stuff like if it has kind of a grenade-like
Yeah.
thing, it uses the grenade-like thing. I haven't gotten a suit that has bits yet, but I imagine all the bits are mostly the same.
Is there anything else? Are there any other suits that have micro missiles or like that for their big special?
Like
'Cause
I
know
want to know how
one of the early
Q-Billy
on
would
suits
play
I
in this
had
game, but
was
we have not seen a Q-Billy by the time that we've played
Yeah.
for this like demo portion of the game. Essentially, I think we for most of these games probably wound up playing more than the normal time for them, just because it's been a long time.
Yeah.
We played. I think we enjoyed all of these. Like
Yeah,
I
these
don't
are
think
all
there's
good
going to be a case where we're bashing any of these games. So I think Battle Alliance, I played a good like 4-ish hours, I want to say, and I didn't hit the
When I
point
played.
where I had more than the basic setup of suits. Like I think the rate at which you unlocked things went pretty far down, and even then you're still getting things like GNs and relatively basic mobile suits. You get like Barbados at one point, but Barbados is also like still a simple suit. It's got big chunky melee weapon, and that's really it.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
all
I would
mobile
want to
suits
see
know
how
how
the
to
more
do
advanced
nowadays
suits
is use
work.
mace.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
because I'm also curious about how things like Trans Am, because I'm sure there's a Trans Am suit in the game.
There is. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think one of the things for me was I enjoyed the for the most part simplistic gameplay. I would say, or maybe not simplistic, but easy to grasp after you have the tutorial for what they give you. And then I'm a fan of Gundam. I'm definitely not uh, as knowledgeable as Brett or Ryan are on this. So I found myself sort of struggling to keep up with a lot of the dialogue. Where I'm just like, who the hell is this? I haven't seen this series yet. Type
For
deal.
reference, Brett's our
it checks
resident
out.
Gundam expert. I'm like half Gundam expert if I've seen the early Universal Century stuff, and then Double O and Iron Blooded Orphans. So I got that portion of things, but the other characters showing up made no sense whatsoever to me. So I think it's definitely still a case of like it helps if you've seen a lot of Gundam.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if you are, if you are super into it, like I will say the only reason that I haven't played more of it is because there's just mechanically and like game history more important things for me to get through right now. Like I'm in the middle of Final Fantasy
I'm gonna
VI.
say one thing, Brett, and I'm gonna tell you this is why you haven't played more of this game. It's Gundam Breaker 3.
It's it's Gonna Breaker 3, but I don't have to plug in my PS4 to play it. It's better than new Gundam Breaker on Steam. Do not buy or play that game. That game is terrible. It's bad.
Ooh.
But yeah, like it has all the little things. Like whenever you activate your ultimate ability, it'll like by default it'll play like a song from
Yeah.
the anime that the suit you're using is in, and it's a very fitting song. Most of the time, it's like, hell yeah, that's awesome, cool. If you use the Shining Finger, that's why the Shining Finger theme is there, whatever. But you can change it. You can go into the settings and change
Yeah.
what song plays. And so I had just finished watching Double Zeta for the first time at the time. So I changed my ultimate music to be one of the battle songs from Double Zeta. I was like, hell
Yeah,
yeah,
like everything be
this
the
feels great.
Thunderbolt jazz, and it was great.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh.
It's just so many little like things that you can tweak that like someone who doesn't, care about the franchise. It's very clear that they made the game not really caring about that demographic. And why should they? It's a spin-off like video game. You shouldn't be hoping to attract new people to your franchise through that most of the time. You'd be very lucky to do that. So
It is odd
it's
because this game got a decent amount of marketing reach because it was in
Yeah.
some like Nintendo showcases, which is rare.
Mhm.
And
Huh.
I think there's like for mass appeal, I feel like there's the one big thing affecting this game is that it's SD and not full
Yeah.
scale. Because I feel like all these mechanics would have looked totally fine with full scale. Like the
agree.
SD reasoning is 100%. It's cheaper to make, and I think in this case it feels pretty bad compared to like the
Yeah.
tactics games, because the tactics games you have so many units and so
They have
much
to be
going on
simplified.
that they have to be simplified. And even then, like they do so much in the camera work of the like turned actions that they still feel really cinematic and cool. Whereas here, I think the SD-ness hurts it a lot comparatively.
You don't get as many cool animations because they're so
Yeah, the
squished.
animations aren't as fun. Your combat animations just feel a little bit more wimpy, just because of the SD-ness. Which it's not bad. It's just they went with this style, and I think that means, especially to people that aren't familiar with Gundam, it's not going to be as appealing. Yeah,
I think
had a good
also-
time.
Speaking of,
I think also we're at an interesting point in the franchise, and this is just purely because I'm paying attention. I am watching the new episodes from Wish from Mercury, the current season, as they're coming out and following the story. This year, 2022 into 2023, not only was this the best year for the entire franchise in the last, I think, like almost 20 years. It's like the most lucrative part of Sunrise at all right now, and that includes like huge other like anime, like a bunch of like shonen that are out right now that like a lot more people will claim are like big right now. Like Gundam is doing crazy right now, and that's because of the new series doing so good and incorporating a lot of things that a lot of younger people like into the story. And I don't think that Sunrise or Bandai Namco or any of the dev teams thought that it would do this good, because Ariel and Soletta, the character in Mobile Suit from the new series, only just got added to SD Battle Alliance as a paid DLC. They're not in the
Oh.
original game. Their interactions are hilarious and very adorable because it's Soletta. But you have to pay extra to play as her. And Ariel is nowhere in Gundam Evolution, and Battle Operation 2 doesn't take place in the same timeline as the new series. So it's weird. It seems like they're not able to capitalize on the reason that the series is doing so well right now. And I feel like if they had known to include Ariel and Soletta and Miorine and like
Well,
all
so
like
they
more
treat
characters.
Barbados like the big thing in this one, which is weird because this game came out like 3 years after Iron Blooded Orphans finished running.
And there's a firm 50-50 split in the community right now where either Iron Blooded Orphans is great or Iron Blooded Orphans is shit, and that's not the one that you want to balance
Tons of
your
people
entire.
didn't watch it. Like IBO.
I
is,
haven't
like,
yet.
I really enjoyed IBO by the end of it, but the first half of the show, like the first few episodes, are amazing, and then it just falls off a cliff for a while. It becomes very boring for a bit. It's very slow before it kicks back up again, and I think it just means a lot of people aren't familiar with what's going on.
Yeah.
And Barbados' design is weird. Some people don't like the design, and that contributes a lot. And it also doesn't SD-ify well. I think that's like
Not
a
really.
pretty good portion of it. It looks good in full scale, but at SD scale, wacky.
I'm not a fan of the IBO snatched waist design.
You don't
That's
like
fair.
the
A lot of
snatch
people
waist?
aren't.
Especially mostly because of my bad experiences when building the kits when they just
I thought you were about to say with your bad experience with snatching your waist. Great. All right,
Oh,
we're off the
God.
rails. Yeah, I do think some other fun things about this game. I like the map design. I feel like it does a good job of being just a direct kind of. It gives me Dynasty Warriors feeling of how they design maps in those games. Which, yes, they're pretty simple, but they get enough across while also having a ton of them. Like that's an important thing. Is there's a lot of maps. There's a lot of different things you can see. There's destructible buildings and stuff, so you get that
Yes.
feeling of things breaking.
That and trains in a game,
Yeah.
you have me essentially. That's
So
all it
lots of good
takes.
little details that I think add up a lot to a good experience. It's just a case of I don't know. This is the Gundam game that I would play right now. It's just not a.
Yeah.
If I want a Gundam story, like if I want to learn any story stuff of Gundam, the Battle Alliance or the G Generation Tactics games legitimately do a relatively good job of retelling each story in a game format while also allowing for the crossover stuff. So I would lean more towards those games for the sake of like crazy crossover and also getting story than these games. And that's not even mentioning Super Robot Wars, which has tons of Gundam stuff in it.
Are there-
and is entirely a crossover game.
Are there Gundam games, like even like with the tactics type ones, that have space combat that isn't just on a plane?
Battle Operation.
Like you can go,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Battle Operation has it. It's relatively good. I actually quite enjoyed the last time I played Battle Operation Space Combat.
Very fun.
It's very weird and kind of clunky, but it's weird and kind of clunky in a good way, not a bad
Yeah,
way.
when you get used to it, it
The-
clicks.
This is getting not off the rails, but it's a weird comparison. How would you compare it to the Warframe space combat stuff now?
Warframe's way faster. Battle Operation
Yeah.
is a slow game. It's a controlled pace. But yeah, we'll have to do a Battle Operation stream at some point, I think, because I think you would get a kick out of it, Alex. And it's a
Yes,
relatively fun game. I had a good time with it
Huh.
in PS5 before I want to switch to PC when it comes out on PC, just because I got a big beefy PC, so I want to get those Battle Operation polygons nice and high frame rate. I feel like aiming with a mouse will be a lot easier.
It's
Fair.
beefy.
All right, any last thoughts about Battle Alliance?
You touched on the destructible buildings, which was one of the big ones
All
for
right,
me.
are people gonna keep playing this game? Is this one that you guys are gonna keep playing?
I probably will on and off for the next little bit, just because I gotta see my boys sometimes, and sometimes Gundam Evolution makes me mad. So
Yep.
I gotta play something else to to not be as mad. But it's not I'm gonna play this for the next 3 years. Like, no, every so often, I think is how often it'll happen.
What about you, Alex?
I might boot it up one or two more times. I want to get a little bit further to see like the other mechanics that you were
Yeah.
talking about.
I want to get to a Trans Am suit. It's gonna happen in a year. I'm not gonna pick this game up for another like 6 months or something. That's not the game's fault. That's the fault of a lot of stuff is coming out in June that I really want to play.
Yeah,
like D4,
it's,
Final Fantasy's coming out, Street Fighter.
Yep.
Just a crazy month for games. Battle Operation is May 30th, so
An unfortunately packed year.
bad timing. Yeah, it's a fun game. This is good Game Pass game. I think of like I would feel a little offended
Definitely.
if I paid $60 for this game, but playing it
60?
through Game Pass, I feel fine.
Was this game $60?
Let me check if it's
think
60.
so.
It may not be 60. It might be slightly cheaper. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth. It is $60. Yeah.
Oh, it is.
It's a $60 game. Whereas I think if you like G
Before
Generation,
DLC.
the
Game
tactics
Pass game.
games, I paid $60 for the G Generation games. I feel great about it. Those games are very content rich, and have a lot of different stuff. Whereas I felt like I was getting less with this, comparatively. All right, let's move on to our next game. Alex, you want to take Aragami too?
Yeah, as Ryan said, the game that I picked was Aragami 2, and this was for I've been playing this game's been out for a bit, I believe, and I've been playing it definitely like on and off, but in good bursts. I picked it for a bit of a sad note, being that Linceworks, the studio behind it, had closed, unfortunately.
Yeah, they're shutting down
So this-
Operation. Just is a shame.
So this was a little bit of a in memoriam playing, and also we didn't stream the multiplayer, did we? For
Not for
I
our
didn't
Aragami
stream
2, I
it.
don't
yeah.
think.
But yeah, it was very fun with multiplayer. That's some chaotic ninja action, and it's very much a so Aragami 2 is very much a sort of like play it your way type ninja game.
Yeah.
Shadow ninja magic, things like that. You can do all stealth. I believe the three like archetypes of playing are ghost, spirit, and demon. Demon being essentially never crouching, never stealth killing or assassinating everyone, just taking
Go
everyone
loud.
on in like upfront combat, because it has a pretty decent like upfront combat with how dodging and strafing and parrying works in it.
Yeah,
I
it's kind of
definitely
like
say
pared down Sekiro
yeah
combat. It's kind of how I'd put it.
yeah the stealth ones are more strong, and there's more ability. I actually don't know if there's more abilities towards stealth, because there's a lot towards getting your health back in combat, and
There's a lot to both. Of
there's
like,
yeah,
you unlock tools for stealth, but stealth doesn't really get more advanced
yeah.
the more you play it.
There
But that's
are
the thing of most stealth games.
you did turn me on a lot, because when I was playing this by myself, I was doing mostly stealth things. Ever since I played the multiplayer, I have not been able to stop killing.
Well, it's because
The animations for it are so fun
that's
and
the
varied.
thing. There's no penalty for going demon mode to what we could find, or like murder
Yeah.
mode. You have the option to like knock people out or kill them, and you get different bonuses based on either. So you can get like a killed everyone, or you can get a didn't kill anyone bonus. But the animations for killing in this game look so good. They
They're
did
really
an
cool.
excellent job on the stealth kills and on the combat animations. Like it looks very good in motion. So yeah, I lean lethal on this game just because it looks so good to see it.
And it is still on Game Pass. I don't see any signs of, knock on wood, of them
Yeah, it's probably going to be
taking
on
it
Game
off.
Pass for a while.
This is
Hopefully.
absolutely, and I would recommend anyone listening, play this game.
Yeah, Aragami
Uh,
2 is a really good time, especially in co-op. We had a lot of fun playing it in co-op.
yeah.
Um,
Doing the synchronized combo takedowns,
yeah,
wonderful.
it's very fun to kind of, because you're seeing things, people doing things, and like stealth is tracked individually. So someone can get into combat, and then you can sneak up behind the target they're in combat with and stealth kill them and do stuff like that. There's really cool moments where like maybe there's two guys on a bridge that would be hard to take out if you were playing solo, but in multiplayer you can do the thing where like you two get on the other side of the bridge and jump up and kill them at the same time, and it's really fun.
A synchronized shadow jump, or it's like two people hanging off a ledge. Boom, grab them both.
It's also
at the
just
same
really
time.
cool. You get that moment of like the thing that a lot of games do in like trailer gameplay, where you see like a bunch of people
Yes.
running on rooftops and stuff, and it
Yeah.
looks like it'd be really fun in multiplayer, and then it isn't. Here it is multiplayer, and it is really fun to like go see your friends running along and doing ninja things on the side, and I think it just works really well. It's super different from Aragami 1. Like, don't go in expecting basically anything from Aragami 1 in this game. It's not a knock, it's just a very different game. And it's set in an entirely different setting and everything, so yeah, not related to Aragami 1 at all, but really good action stealth gameplay. And I think it holds up extremely well for being like a relatively low budget indie game.
It's also very pretty stylized as
Yeah.
far as the art style goes.
They went for a great art style.
Yeah.
Yeah, feels like a good kind of modern stealth ninja game. The mission structure is probably going to be the least interesting thing about the game. It's a lot of go here, do this thing, and do this very short objective, because it uses like there's a couple of really big maps, and then certain missions will take place in portions of those maps. Which I think works fine, but it is going to feel like if you're coming from higher budget games like AAA stuff, it's gonna feel a little weird. Of like you're going down to a scale that's a little different, and you're gonna recognize levels. But it also comes with that case of like you learn the levels, and that's really cool. It kind of reminds me of Hitman, where you're learning like the different routes through the level and where stuff are, where you can go, like escape routes and all sorts of stuff, which is I think very satisfying. But it's definitely a thing of like, don't go in expecting a AAA game, because it's not a AAA game.
And I think like mechanically too, it's like because of it's it's not like a whole reused level with no change. It's like, no, it's like you can see how things get more complicated because now, oh, I haven't been on this part of the level for the last, like, 10 missions they sent me on or whatever. And now there's like civilians that I can't kill, but if they see
Yeah.
me, the mission is compromised. And that there's already like so many new obstacles and things I have to deal with compared to last time that it doesn't really feel like you're playing the same like exact mission over and over again. They're very good at mixing things up and throwing a lot of different things at you.
Different
And
objectives
even
too,
then,
like finding
yeah,
information, killing things.
blowing
One of
stuff
the
up.
things that I saw is like they tweaked one of the later enemies in an interesting way. So there's like these big brute guys that have unstoppable attacks. They wear like a bandana, they're shirtless and have red glowing eyes instead of the normal soldiers that you fight. If you knock them out, they'll get back up again after a short period of time. They don't stay unconscious.
Jeez.
Hmm.
And then there's also also later on in the game, there's like a shaman or a priest class of enemy that you can see spiritual connections between them and certain soldiers. And if you attack a soldier that has a spiritual connection with them, it knows, and it will send other people to investigate. So
Cool.
it's a fun priority target, especially because they're usually really deep in the territory and surrounded.
Yeah, so you gotta like
there's
hunt
some
them
fun ways
down.
yeah.
That's fun, and I think that's the way that they do different enemies here is also interesting. If you have like enemies with hats to kind of denote that they're a stronger one-on-one fight, so it's easier to take them out through stealth. But sometimes they're in an area where it's really hard to stealth kill them, so you got to choose like, am I gonna go for the risky stealth kill or am I gonna do an actual fight with it? And you get like kind of a mini boss and fun stuff like that. I the only like downside I had with this game is that sometimes when we're playing multiplayer, there's a little bit of like in combat desync of sometimes if
Yeah,
you're
a little
in
bit.
combat in multiplayer, it doesn't really affect stealth at all. But once you're actually in a like combat mode where you need to parry on time, the animations don't always exactly line up with where you're getting hit. Just I think because of server lag, but it was never bad, and it's also coming from like I'm on a different side of the country than you two, like we're on different coasts, so I think it is okay that there's a little bit of a lag, not even lag, but like slight animation issues with long distance server play, but that's a super minor complaint. Right? Any other big thoughts on Aragami 2? You get a skill tree with lots of different fun
Yes.
tools.
Cosmetics.
Cosmetics that
Yeah.
you get through playing the game. You can go around and like find cosmetics in areas, and then you pay
Yeah,
gold
lots
to
of
unlock them.
secrets. Yeah, lots of secrets that are fun to find.
You got a couple different
Yeah.
game modes here. Of like, there's one that's more faithful to original Aragami, so it kind of replaces your shadow stuff with things that are only usable if their area is shadowed. Whereas Aragami 2's like big change is that your shadow abilities are powered by shadow, but you're not limited to using them in shadow. Whereas the first
think-
game you are. So
Yeah, the other one, you're not able to shadow jump or shadow dash in midair in the classic mode as well. I
yeah,
believe.
you have to follow the rules of the first game, which is you need to be in a safe position to shadow leap. Which is cool. Yeah, it's fun to have that different experience, and because it's mission based, you can swap between them in missions with no problems, and customize your character and all that. You get your fun abilities. Yeah, there's definitely some more fun stuff in the skill tree here that I want to mess with later on. Of like some crazy multi-kill abilities at the end. It seemed very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, this to me was like a really well thought out, not high price game. Like this feels like a really good game for the price that they're asking.
Yeah, it was 30, I believe, 25,
Yeah,
30
Aragami 2 I believe
on
is
Steam.
30-ish.
Super good price.
It's
the amount of replayability
35.
as well.
Yeah, it's just totally. I would feel confident paying for
Especially
that.
because, like, I think we've said this before. There's, I think, over 70 missions in this game too. That
And they all
There's a lot,
have
and
like
they're all replayable.
rankings that you
They're
can like.
scored. So.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Very
you have
cool.
that like Devil May Cry replayability here of missions are very easy to replay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in this environment that we thought might last forever, where we don't have a lot of these stealth action games, Aragami is a great thing to get you prepared for playing Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta when it comes out.
Yeah, good to
there
get in the
you go.
mindset. All right. Any final thoughts? Do you two plan to continue playing this game at all?
Absolutely, I'm going to be bugging you for another multiplayer
Yeah.
session.
Yeah, and I think even outside the multiplayer, it's a fun game to play on your own too.
Yeah, we talked a lot about
Be more
multiplayer.
around.
We've all, I think, played a decent chunk of it single player as well, and it's totally fine. Like, there's no issues with single player. It's not like you're missing out if you're playing single player. It is just very fun to have a game that's super easy to drop in, drop out. It's also crossplay, which we found out, which is super nice for an indie game.
And the last thing, I think it's a relatively simple, but like a fun, pulpy Magic Ninja story.
Yeah. Got some cool elements.
That later in the game does have some interesting twists that I can't spoil. I absolutely can, but I won't.
All right. Yeah, I think I'll probably come back to Aragami 2. I will absolutely play it if people are like, hey, we should play this. But again, this is I think the month that we're doing this in makes this question particularly hard.
Yeah.
And the answer is generally just going to be, I'm going to wait until August. And then I'll probably play some of these once all the current big releases are handled. But yeah, Aragami 2 I think is of the games that I was not incredibly hyped on here. The one that I enjoyed the most. Like I really enjoyed playing this game. I'm also a stealth action fan, so yeah, I feel like this is a good go-to stealth action game, and it reminded me a lot of I don't think you two have played this, but Tsushima Legends is Ghost of Tsushima's like special.
A little bit of it.
Yeah. I think it reminds me a lot of that mode of Tsushima,
Mhm.
and that's a good thing. That's a very fun game as well. So,
Nice.
all right, let's jump into Forza Horizon 5 next. We're talking about Wyatt's game. This is Wyatt's pick. I'll add a note in here for what Wyatt thought on this, because I did talk to him before about some of his thoughts. In the general, Forza Horizon 5 is like the big open world Microsoft car racing game. It's like the whole thing with it is you're going around collecting cars like they're Pokemon and just racing for the fun of racing. That's really Horizon's deal. Unlike Motorsport or Gran Turismo or something, you're not like moving up car classes here. That's kind of the weird thing with Horizon that differentiates it, is it's really about racing the races that are available in the game with the car that you want to race with, and then the game will kind of adjust to match what you're going for. And there's a lot of set pieces. Horizon's really famous for set pieces of like you're racing a train or something. It's very they're cool cinematic moments. They're fun once and then not really super fun again because the magic kind of goes away. But they are like fun, and the map, I think here the Mexico map is amazing. This is
beautiful.
a really beautiful environment that they chose to work with. I think a lot of people, when they saw Forza Horizon 5 was in Mexico in this area, were like, oh, how are they going to do the crazy environments? They did all the crazy environments. They look great.
Yeah. The biomes are jaw-dropping. Because this was also my first experience with a driving racing game, being Forza Horizon 5. So it was heating up the computer a lot, but I was there for it for what I played.
This is a graphically intense game. This is like a pretty. It runs well, but it is like definitely a very good looking game. Yeah, I think generally this game runs great. It plays well. You have a lot of different flavors of racing here. If you've got your like dirt racing, your rally racing, street racing, long distance like street racing. You've got like city street racing. Most of them are represented, some of them better than others. I don't think anyone plays Horizon for city street racing. That's a certainly Need for Speed's territory. But
look, you got to be careful of those sharp corners and don't kill the family of four.
Yeah, and Horizon is like a weird. When we talk about racing games, we kind of have to talk about this thing called like a handling model, which is how the game translates real world cars into a video game. So Forza Motorsport is pretty simmy. Like it's what we would call like a sim racer, where generally you can set the game to be respecting real world physics as much as possible. Horizon is more of an arcade racer, where you can enable a lot of sim like stuff here, but you're probably going to have less fun if you do, because the map is not designed around like having real physics everywhere. So it tends to work best with the more arcade feeling. The same reason that there's like Forza Horizon has the rewind function, which is like a really famous thing about this specific series of games, is when you crash or something, instead of respawning, it's on you to hit a button to rewind if you need to, and that will like move time back to put you back in line. You can get like huge score bonuses if you disable that function, but then you lose the race immediately if you ever miss a turn or something, because it's not easy to come back in a...
Which, my God, happens a lot if you're doing a race for the first time.
This is the thing with Horizon.
Bam, lamppost.
As a fan of racing games, this is the reason that Horizon never super sticks with me forever. Like, I do really enjoy these games, and I don't want to make it sound like I don't. I think they're phenomenal games, but Horizon's problem with difficulty is that there's a really, really intense spike of if you disable the rewind, your game is now so much harder, and you need to be so familiar with your car. And some people might like that, but it is just a case of like, this just takes too long to get used to anything. It's too much. There's so much variability with cars in Horizon, which is a great thing for most of the game. But if in this specific scenario of like not using that feature, it becomes a problem. But if you use the rewind all the time, you can't lose. Like, you literally
it's very hard
not
to
lose. Outside of cases of like you brought a really shitty car.
Or it's like that. Like those tracks that are like 15 minutes long, and it's like, well, I can't rewind to 10 minutes ago, so I'll just take the loss and start over after.
And I think a lot of this is that Forza Horizon makes a really big point of winning races being important, which is a big thing that I like about a lot of older racing games and a lot of the modern racing games, like Need for Speed, whatever the newest one is, the one with the graffiti art look, has a really cool thing of like the way that game encourages you to play is not to win, like not to be number one, but to not lose. Like the worst thing is to lose and be bottom of the list. As long as you get to like the top half, you're not going to lose your money, which is important. Of like, there's a buy-in to races in that game, and you have to race good enough to keep the money that you put in, and then you don't feel bad. But you get like experience and stuff regardless. Like, it's not a case of losing is always the worst thing. Forza Horizon, losing just feels bad. Like, you just getting below top 3, it just doesn't feel good in these games. Because they don't show you on the podium, you get to see everyone else doing cool things, and then for you it's just like, you're here, you finished the race, good job, I guess.
Here's an amount of money.
Which it might be a different case for me because I'm used to the older games that I have played have made me used to that. Where like Ridge Racer 4, there's like the story mode is like in the last round of the Grand Prix that you do, if you get anything other than first place, you lose. You have to start over, and you lost because you have to like perfectly finish the race.
Varies a lot by franchise, but I think it ends up being more satisfying when the benefit of the way that Need for Speed Unleashed, I think, does it, is that when the difficulty is built like that and they make it so that losing by a little bit doesn't feel that bad, they can have people in the races punch a lot harder. Like, the AI can be a lot better.
Yeah.
Without needing to be a game that is inaccessible. As long as winning is not the ultimate objective, you can make the game, and then you get the sense of like the thing that I love about From Software games, which is you as a player get better, and that's what enables you to beat bosses and whatnot. You get that, but in racing games, and I think that's the thing that Forza Horizon doesn't offer. Is not, you don't get that feeling.
Yeah, and another thing that goes like totally against that like FromSoft style, like I overcame the difficulty, is that after a while, if you do bad, the game will be like, hey, we can make it easier for you in this way, this way, and this way. Do you want us to do that? And you just say yes. And it's like, no, I want to beat the thing that was hard. Or if I like win a bunch of things in a row, it'll be like, hey, do you want to raise the difficulty? And it's like, well, I should have just put myself on
the flat line
as hard as I could. Exactly. It's weird because the only other games I can think of that scales like this is, I think it's Final Fantasy VIII scales all the enemies in almost the whole game with your character's XP levels, and it just makes for a very strange progression.
It's kind of like how Oblivion's progression worked.
I was just about to say.
Oblivion had this weird issue where, unlike Skyrim scales enemies in a similar way, but handles it much better because they had more experience. In Oblivion, you would hit level thresholds, and they would replace every enemy with a new thing. And at that point, like, you're just now so much weaker than you were because, like, the base goblin now becomes a troll. And you're like,
and you're nowhere near prepared for that.
It's a massive difficulty jump.
Which is why you only level your skills, and you never go to sleep, and that's the rules for Oblivion.
And
You
yeah,
never
there's a lot
sleep.
of mods that fix it, and it's not as big of a problem as we're making it out to be. Like, it's not a thing your average player is going to really run into. But if you want to do specific character builds in Oblivion that require you to level certain stats, it just makes the game way harder because of it. Where you're like, if you're not leveling combat and stuff immediately, you're going to suck. And this feels very similar to how Forza sometimes feels.
Yeah. At least it asks you if there was a case if it was like, oh, we're gonna make the like racers around you automatically harder or easier, that would be like
Yeah.
abysmal. That would be terrible. But I want to preface all the things that I want to say about this game with the fact that I really enjoyed my time with it. I put in a ton of time into it. I can't remember, and I can't even easily look right now because there's a bunch of things in front of my monitor that my Xbox is attached to, and the game is actually so big that I had to delete it because I did not have enough space
It
and
is
I wanted to
huge.
play this. It's massive, but it was fun. I think I want to say I put somewhere like over the ballpark of like 15 hours into it because it's just an easy game to sit down and play, put music or like a video on in the background and just go.
Yeah.
Speaking of music, I'm sure if you have a certain taste in music, you will like the music in this game. I didn't. It was terrible. All the stations are like the same level of things that I don't like, and I like if you like this like that
If you like
collection of
pop
genres
music,
of
you're
music,
going to be fine.
exactly. But like when other games, and my point of reference for this is Battlefield Hardline for some reason, when you
Huh?
change your radio station, you change the genre of the music. Where in this game, it doesn't feel like you're changing the genre of the music. It
There's
all
like
feels the
loose
same.
genres, but they've kind of bled into each other over the last few Horizon
Yeah.
games.
And the things on the rock station don't even feature like guitars sometimes. And so I was just like, all right, this is for someone.
What I
It's not for
really
me.
wish you could do, and then maybe there's a way to do this, but we're going to talk about the UI in a minute because the UI is
God, that was the next thing I was
to
going
go
to
into
talk
it.
about.
But
boy.
I would love a way here to like set what songs are going to play in each station and just have a way to like customize it, make a custom station. Maybe that
Yeah.
exists. It could totally exist. It seems a lot of games have that, and maybe we just didn't look hard enough. So you can ignore this criticism if it's there. But I would have vastly preferred if I was like, and not even like custom stations, but just let me untick a song from playing. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's certain things in this game where I like the station for the most part, and then one song will come on, and it's just like diarrhea in my ears.
Yeah, exactly.
There's like one or two per station that can be like that, where they're just like, they sound so different from everything else, and not even that they're bad. They're just like they take you out of what you're doing because they just don't sound
Yeah.
right. And I wish there was a way to disable that.
Mm.
Maybe there is, but yeah.
I think we're at like the time in games like this and how like intertwined everything is, where I would just like I know the easy way is to just turn off the music in the settings and listen to Spotify on the same thing. But what if I could just put my Spotify into the game and then have it play my things that I want to
That
listen to
would
onto the radio?
be
You
some
can
very
get
cool functionality.
I think you can still get a couple months of Spotify Premium or whatever free with Game Pass. So Microsoft has
Huh.
clearly done some sort of business with them already. That would be cool to see in the future
Yeah, we'd
for
love to see like a Spotify
me.
link.
It's yeah, because another thing that goes on with that is that there's a very strange kind of borderline useless mechanic in this game where it's like a power song or something that you get.
Skill songs,
Where
Brett.
skill songs, yes, where when the song is playing, all the skills that you do are worth more and give you more XP and stuff like that,
Huh.
level up to the next level of
Skill songs are
skills,
great, Brett. I
things
don't know what you're
faster.
talking about. You want to get them car perk points because this game has car perk points. You
Well,
get so
they're
many.
cool mechanic, but when I think the song makes me want to inhale nails at a dangerous rate, I don't care about the mechanic because I would rather it be attached to a song that I like. If I could attach it to, if I could pick the skill song, like okay, I want my skill song to
That would be
be
cool.
the one Beastie Boys song that's in the game, or the one Foo Fighters song that's in the game, because of the two examples of things that I've looked at the band and go, I know those guys. If I could pick those guys and have them be like, okay, this is my skill song. When this comes on, not only am I in real life going to feel all cool and awesome while I'm listening to it, but I will get in-game bonuses for doing cool and awesome things while it's playing. So you have like a twofold, like you will feel like doing cool and awesome things. And
It's like the
get
thing that
reward for
Battle
it.
Alliance has where you pick your music and it feels really cool when you hit the button that says, I do my cool attack and I
Exactly.
also get the music. Yeah,
Exactly.
would love that.
But it's for that. The music thing is a more suggestive thing to me. But we mentioned it before. The UI in this game is like, oh my god, a group of monkeys could do a better job
It's-
at making
Microsoft
UI.
and UI, specifically
It's-
like Xbox's base UI and the Game Pass app UI, it's just, all of it is so strange and it's stuff into
only-
blocks.
The only thing I can
Confusing.
give it is it's not Forspoken.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, it's
terms
at
of
least
UI.
like legible. Like I don't have an issue
Yes.
reading it, but the issue Forza is particularly rough, just because things are different sizes. It's hard to know what you should be looking at.
Yeah.
The tabs aren't always named sensibly, and sometimes
Yeah.
because the fact that the game has like little seasons that are not like battle pass seasons, but like actual seasons in game. You get like a big pop-up that's like, this is what's active while this like weather is going on, and here's the live events, but then you don't know what's not what I'm supposed to be doing because I haven't finished doing the game, and so you get this
Yeah.
weird feeling of like this UI is just incomprehensible at a certain point, and you learn it. Like I don't have an issue with it anymore because I've played these games since Horizon 3 and I understand the UI. But there's still moments where I like boot up the game and I go, wait a minute, what am I looking at? To like sit
Yeah.
and decipher for a minute. It's just weird. It's odd UI decisions were made here that I don't hate the aesthetic of the UI, but the way things are organized is just not the way that I think they need to be.
Yeah, it makes every other aspect about it feel worse because it just feels terrible to go through. It feel like for
It's like,
for
Brett, if I
my
asked you to how to get to your car perk points, do you have any idea? Like,
no for the
Aren't there
first
perk points?
little bit of the game, I was like, I don't know how to change my vehicle. I guess I'll just like manually drive
because
back
the
to my
game tries
garage.
to tell you because you have like little exclamation points, but because so many things have the exclamation point on them at once, it's really hard to know what is a thing that you
Yeah.
need to interact with.
It like for my personal projects in the file explorer, it's like folders within folders within folders that are all named, and it's just like I'm going to be the only one looking at this, and maybe one other person if it's me and somebody else working on this. This is just for me to organize everything so I have it in one place. I don't have to worry about how it looks to other people. This feels like I were to have put my personal project organization that is purely for me for everyone to see. Why would you do that? That is a horrible idea because it's folders within tabs within folders within menus that go to lists of 90 million things.
Cells within cells
Oh
interlinked.
my, it's cells within cells interlinked, and I am way off baseline. I'm going insane just thinking about it. It's so weird, and just other parts of the UI are just very frustrating. Like my least favorite example from playing is there's this one high point on the map where there's like a ramp that is like built out of like Halo Reach Forge mode parts. It sticks out like a sore thumb. It's begging you to go in the fastest car, hit like 300 miles an hour, and just fly off that thing because there's a huge gorge underneath it. It's begging for you to do. I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna go all the way down this straightaway, get to top speed, and I'm gonna go crazy off it. The score is gonna be super high because it's one of those score challenges that are scattered around the map for you to do. And I'm like top speed, zoom, like the speed line's going crazy. I'm like, yep. And just the second, the inch that my tires hit the ramp, I instantly, like 300 miles an hour to 0, and a pop-up comes on the
Oh
screen.
no!
Hey, did you know you've done enough things in this area to unlock another little pop-out on your Mexico visiting?
We're gonna get to the pop
thing.
outs, Brett.
And I was like, you just like I've been blue balled. I've been blue balled. There's no better way to describe it. This is one of the only times in my entire life playing video games where I can put my foot down and be like, this feels like I've been blue balled because something cool was about to happen and the game worked against me to make it stop because it had to tell me something that I couldn't care less about. And I was just like,
had to tell you too.
I know it had. It's just I maybe go through the whole menu. I had to listen to people talk about shit that I couldn't care
It's
less.
so long too. Every time you do it, it takes so long.
My biggest problem with this game is that it is an open world car game where you have the power to drive between the races that you do. So you get to race between races, and that's crazy. And I just want to sit down and go fast. And the amount of obstacles it puts in front of you doing that is so painful.
And I also
sucks
think there's one
sometimes.
other big thing about the pop out and the way that the stamps you get as you complete races and whatnot, you get XP, which goes into these stamps that you can use to unlock more stuff, basically. The reason I really don't like this is that works in like other open world games, in games that don't have a linear progression of skill or a linear progression of things, but a racing game is a lot of racing game progression is you as the player getting better. And when you do this, where you remove the ability for the designers to put a story that has a natural conclusion, or like I don't mean story, but like a golden path that has a natural conclusion, and like conclusionary race, it just means that everything's a flat line of like the difficulty just goes up and down constantly. It doesn't feel good. It's not. There's nothing that feels like I've achieved something. A big thing I can bring up is this race has a race that's been in a few other Forza Horizon games called the Goliath, which is like the longest race in the game. In this one, you just kind of unlock it randomly. In the other games, it's like a big deal. Like it's relatively a big deal when you get it and you go do it.
And it's also not the longest in this game.
It's just not super
like the
fun.
second longest.
It's kind of fine. Yeah, I think it's a case of just like they tried this for this game. I really hope that the next one, the way that you unlock story beats is still, and like story races and set piece races is still linear. Just because in this one, I don't think it works for a Forza game. I think the rest of the formula works. Of like all the cool open world activities and stuff, I think work pretty well. And there's lots of speed traps, lots of skill challenges, tons of like cars. You can find hidden cars in barns. That's cool.
Ooh,
that's fun. It's cool, collectible. That is all great. Tying your like main path progression to open world random activities, and then you have to pick which one you want. Just not fun. It doesn't work the way that they I think wanted it to, and to me I would much rather prefer that there is a designed path of actual like excitement going up as I'm playing, and I don't accidentally play the coolest mission first and then feel bad for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's I would like it if there was like here is very obviously it has its own symbol on the map. Here's the race that you do next to progress. You can still do all the other extraneous stuff because that's not needed to progress. You will run out of it eventually, but you will unlock more after you
You'll unlock new
progress.
cars, you'll unlock other stuff,
Exactly.
but not the next story path mission.
Because the problem with it in this game is it's not like, oh, I need to spend XP points to give myself XP. It's like literally like going fast will get you XP.
And it's
like,
great
just
to
the
have cool missions be side content, but they shouldn't be like you have to now unlock this through this UI system of it doesn't work as well as I wanted to.
It's a very strange web of things that could probably work, but not in the way that they're
and the reason to me that I think it
right
reads
now.
as dangerous that this is what's happened is I don't think to your average person this is going to read as a problem at all. Like I think it's something that people won't notice, but a lot of people, because we've all been developers, we've all been in the game sphere of the process of stuff inside. We know that like people that play games are really good at finding problems. They're not great at offering solutions, but this problem is like so small that I think a lot of people just won't find it, and then the developers may not even realize it because they're not playing the same way that the player is playing the game. And I think as a player playing this game from a design perspective, I'm like, I would enjoy this more if the designers had more of a hold over me and not quite as much open worldness. I think it's just not the best way. And if they're going to do something like this, I think they could do something like how the new Zelda games are formatted, of you have a non-linear story path, but you eventually end up coming back to a head. Like maybe there's 4 routes of like you can level up dirt racing and street racing separately, but that still needs to have a path with like its own set pieces. And I think what ends up happening is because they like relegate the set pieces to their own category, it just feels unsatisfying. There's not really any good conclusions. Yeah, I just think the classic format of like Burnout Paradise to me is the game to emulate if you're doing an open world racing game, where that game just unlocks more races whenever you
That's the
hit
one with the big
a
crashes,
threshold.
right?
Oh yeah, it's an excellent game. Basically my favorite open world racing game ever, and I don't think a game has topped it yet. But it's an excellent thing, and I think it handled the raise in difficulty of tracks very well because you just kind of unlock more as you keep playing. Yeah, makes sense. All right. Other things to briefly mention in this game: tons of cars. None of us are car nerds, I think. There's so many cars in this game. You want a car, it's probably in here. Aside from, I think, one or two major manufacturers were like, you can't use our cars in the game, so those aren't in the game, but that's not Microsoft's fault. And there's lots of
Guess you're not
going to
be popular or cool.
Yeah. There's tons of fun stuff in here to collect. That's why I see this game as like car Pokemon. If you're into cars and you want to collect them like Pokemon, you'll have a good time.
What does a Volkswagen have type advantage against?
I mean, it's a bug type, obviously. So
yeah. Still nothing. It's a bug
not
type,
great.
so it dies.
Yeah, I do still really enjoy this game. The DLCs are great, by the way. The Hot Wheels pack is for this one, as well as a rally racing themed pack, which is super cool.
That's another thing.
There was also a Lego one, right?
That's for the last.
I think that's if you're just playing this off of Game Pass, like me, I'm pretty sure unless there's something that's like you have to download this separately. Like I drove all the way to the Hot Wheels thing, expecting it to just happen, and it was like, "Hey, you don't have this. You need to buy it." I was like, "Well, I drove all the way here to the middle of a crater in the middle of nowhere, and you're gonna tell me I don't have."
This is another UI problem, okay? Of like you have to drive to the location instead of, and it's like a big thing on the map that looks like you should just be able to click on it, but you can't. Yeah, it's super confusing.
And it just told me to F off basically. So I did, and I wanted to play the Hot Wheels stuff really bad, but I'm not gonna shell out for.
I want to feel the traction of my tires on those.
Yeah, I did. I shelled out for the DLC. It's very fun. Yeah, I especially really like the rally one. I think the rally one is very good because it's back to kind of a realism setting. Of the Hot Wheels stuff is cool, but it's a Hot Wheels track. Like there are tracks. There's a limited amount of stuff that you're doing. It doesn't play to the open world strengths. The rally stuff does. So,
okay,
all right. Any other final thoughts on Forza Horizon 5? And do you guys plan to keep playing it?
I think purely because the game is so massive, I really can't, because it just takes up so much space. There's so many other games I want to play that I might not enjoy as much, but I would like to say that I have played or tried or keep on my Xbox. And also because it's so big, like, okay, say I do have enough space now, it's going to take like 3 hours to download again. Gigantic. But it did. If you know it, the ripples of what Forza Horizon 5 has left can definitely be felt, because now I want to play more racing games. So I've tried more in the wake of playing that. So I've been made to play more racing games than I would have before playing it, but it is just so big and some aspects about it are so mediocre that I probably won't be playing it again anytime soon.
Yeah, Forza and racing games are not for me. I'm gonna say I feel like this game cemented it. I don't want to say like ruling out all racing games. Like if they're the Hot Wheels racing game, I definitely try out at some. Was it? Right, because I think you were.
So there's a Hot Wheels kart racer, Hot Wheels Unleashed, which I think is phenomenal. That's a really good kart racer, basically. And I think I'm more into the satisfaction of those games, I would say, is solidly very different from how Forza games tend to function. Just because they're more of a actual like skill test and arcade challenge rather than being a car collection thing. Yeah, that makes sense. I think for me, this is a game that, like, Forza games tend to be a comfort game for me. Of like, if I have some time and I want to just relax for a while, I'll play Forza, and just hang out for a bit to play through the story. Because Forza is like good vibes encapsulated. I think tends to be the strength of the series. but I think 5 has stepped slightly too far to now the vibes feel too good. Like there's no
They're like artificially good.
they're artificially
Toxic
good.
positivity.
Everyone's so positive the whole time. Where I think the thing about Forza Horizon 3 and 4 is that you're not at the peak, whereas this game treats you like an all-star immediately, and that just means there's nowhere to go.
Oh, we haven't talked about the most important thing with this game.
The name
how
jump
it
scare
invades your privacy.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the name jump scare before we're done, because I do think this is important to mention. It's gonna be the last thing we talk about, just because it's a thing. But yeah, for me, I think I'll definitely come back to this game. Forza's a game, like, I'll play it once for like a couple weeks, once every 4 to 5 months. And yeah, I have a really good time when I do, but it's not a game that I'm playing all the time or forever. And there are plenty of people that this is a game they play all the time and forever, because it is good for that. And there are cars that are like shiny cars, so there's chase items to collect. It's got some fun stuff. You can get cars that like double certain types of rewards, which is cool, and it is fun to be like, I'm gonna race this crazy long race in a jalopy, and it's gonna be really bad, and I'm gonna see all the other vehicles that the game puts in that are also really bad, and it's gonna be just fun to do a weird race. And Drivatar tech, super cool. Drivatar tech, the way that the game does your AI racers is they're basically, when you're playing the game online and you allow this to happen, I believe there's like a checkbox you pick at the start that's like, yeah, you can do this. Your Drivatar will be like put into other games, and it will race as you race. It will start to learn how you kind of approach races and take parts of that into how it races. So every Drivatar is a little bit different. And like ones are going to be basically challenge ratings of it'll pull from like a Drivatar that's better than most players for like the number 1 thing, and then the number 2 will be like one of your friends, and it'll race kind of like your friends do, stuff like that, which is a really cool way of doing the AI for these racers. I think it's just, yeah, there's huge talks on how this tech works, and it's very fun. I think it's just really an interesting way to do AI in a game that doesn't make it feel the same every time, which is important. Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about the jump scare. So, this game is linked to a Microsoft account. When you make when you log in the game, it links to your Xbox account, your Microsoft stuff. Microsoft put a lot of money in this game, and one of the things that happens when they put a lot of money in, the game can say a lot of names. So there's a huge library of names that can be said by certain characters occasionally. And there's a moment early on in the game where someone goes, "Hey, your name? How are you doing?"
Before you put it in settings.
You don't put anything in for this. So, I don't know about YouTube, but I don't tend to play myself in games. I like to make a character to play. Like, maybe I'll play a woman with an amputated leg in this game, or maybe I'll play a Khajiit man with a sword in Skyrim. Yeah. And that's not me, and I'm happy about that. I give them a name that's fitting, and I enjoy playing a character. And this
you heard
one,
it here first. Ryan is happy he's not a furry.
Yep. That's not me. I'm glad I'm not a Khajiit. I feel like life would be a little awkward if you were.
A little bit.
When I make a character here who's like just not me, and then the game goes, "Hey Ryan," I'm real weirded out.
Yep.
And I don't have any problems with my name. I'm not a person that dislikes my name. But the problem is, what if you're trans? Or you have a name that you don't go by anymore, but when you signed up for this Microsoft account a few years ago that you don't use super often, you just put your old name in. You don't care. You launch the game, and the game dead names you. That's pretty bad.
That sucks.
That's real
and I
bad.
Honestly, I was expecting this to not be a thing anymore. I was expecting them to have changed it to be like, hey, the game is going to refer to you as whatever name you have on your Microsoft account. Here's the one that you have right now. Would you like to change the way the game refers to you as? And be like, oh, I'm glad they took into account this glaring problem that they have in this fancy smart person thing they have created.
Especially considering this game won an accessibility award for the fact that it has sign language translations. But this is a big accessibility thing of just like, let's try not to do something that's really gonna mentally hurt a lot of players. Like,
because you play video games to escape from real life. Obviously, you should escape from. Video games are escapism for most of the time, to a healthy extent for some people, and sometimes you just gotta really
And then
horrible day, and you just want to play some Forza, and now you've been
And now
called a
you're
name
jump
that you haven't
scared.
called in like 5 years by like, oh, you're
You're
like,
in a bad
I don't know,
mood
like
now.
dad that didn't understand you still calls you by that. Oh God, no!
Oh
Like what?
god.
Oh God! All these
And there's a
horrible things.
process to change it too. You have to like go figure out this is where the UI comes in again. You got to find the spot that you want to change it, which is it's there.
Yes.
It
Oh.
should be there at the start of the game so you can pick a name. Yeah, it's really a case of like this is just a thing. I'm sure there's no malice behind this. Like it's not a thing that
Oh yeah.
nobody made the decision that this was going to happen and was like, oh, I don't like these people, so they're going to get named. What happened here
No,
is
they
someone
thought it
thought
was
this
cool
was a
'cause
cool
it's a-
feature, and then they put it in, and they were like, oh, this is a cool feature. Nobody checked it, was like, this isn't a great idea, and they just haven't changed it. So this is the thing. Check it next time. Don't
Yeah.
just let this happen.
Yeah.
This is super weird. Like this is not a thing that I think most people are going to enjoy. It's a thing that I think most people are just weirded out by, and change immediately, or they just don't care. Like it's one of those two. And I think the people that are negatively impacted by this are way higher than I think the people that actively really like that the game calls you by your real name as soon as you boot it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because even we all changed it. I think we all changed it.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I made mine a reference to this flying game that we love so much, Brett.
The
The
Ace
Ace
Combat.
Combat like game,
Oh.
the other one with Monarch.
The other one. Yeah, Project Wingman.
Project Wingman. That's it. Yeah, I changed mine to a Monarch style name immediately. I was like, I want to
made
call
mine
sign
Big
in this
Buck.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird decision. All right, let's move on to our last and final game, which I say for last just solely by the virtue of the fact that this game is not multiplayer, and all the others we played a lot of multiplayer in, because we did actually play multiplayer of all of these together. All right, Chained Echoes, a JRPG that I think we'd heard a couple of things about beforehand. This for me is the game that I actually played the least, but that's not actually saying a lot because I played all of these games for a good amount of time. So I think I got about 3 to 4 hours into this.
Yeah, I was playing it today, and I think I just crossed the 4-hour mark.
But yeah,
Not
I'll
get
say
that far, and I wish I did.
Chained Echoes. I don't want to say it surprised me because I've been told a lot about this game beforehand about how good it was without actually knowing
I'd never
what
heard of it.
is. And I was like, I want to play this because I like JRPGs. I keep hearing it's really good. And it's really good. I'm not going to keep people in suspense here. It's a really, really good pixel art JRPG.
Because I played games like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI when I was a lot younger, and the internet has poisoned my mind and attention span, and things to where I can no longer really do those kind of things, but I want to. And Chained Echoes, how beginner friendly and forgiving it is while still, retaining a good amount of challenge and being fun is a phenomenal surprise. I really enjoy how the interchangeability of the parties, how different how
this
you
to
can
me is
change
like a
different moves for a different
model.
area, and especially how your health resets after every battle.
Yes. To me, it's a
Super
model of like how you should balance a JRPG that is not necessarily meant to be super long, but is more like a narrative first thing, where combat is fast, it's punchy, there's a lot of options, you have a lot of things you can do, and it definitely looks like it's going to get balloon out as more of the game gets played, because you have a huge list of skills that you can unlock and whatnot. But it's easy enough to approach. You know what's going on immediately. It doesn't feel like there's at any point I'm going to be surprised by something, which I think is really good. Like this game has just felt very good to play, and it felt very satisfying to play, which is always, I think, the stumbling block of a lot of pixel art, especially games like this, where they just struggle to make when I press the button, cool thing happens. This game, when you press the button, cool thing happens.
Cool
like
thing
it looks
happens.
very good.
Cool thing
I
happens
love
a
the
lot.
way they handle combat arenas, as they all are very reflective of like where you are, which is great. Yeah, it just looks great in motion, and it's got mechs. It's got mechs, Brett.
Your first character's main super is just building a mech on the spot.
I'm
then
real weak in the
blasting
knees for a
everyone.
mech, and
Hell yeah.
this has some
the
cool
Sky
JRPG
Pilots too.
mechs.
Oh yeah.
And yeah,
Oh,
I
those Sky
also
Pilots are fun.
okay. So for this thing, we make the rule of like we're not going to spoil anything past what we've played, obviously, because we haven't played it. But we do the demo treatment for this game, so we're going to spoil a thing at the start of the game, which is
I'll
that
say a little bit less than what I played because I've played 4 hours into it.
yeah. So a big gimmick of this game at the start is that you are playing different characters. Like you aren't going through as one character. And my favorite like JRPG opening basically ever, and this is probably pretty controversial, is FF12. I really like how Final Fantasy 12 starts. And for people that haven't played it, Final Fantasy 12 starts by you playing a soldier in an army that at the end of the segment, minor spoilers, is not a huge spoiler for the game, just a small thing.
20 minutes in at most.
Yeah, 20 minutes in, literally. It's very quick. It's about the same duration as Chained Echo's very first sequence. Your character is killed by the villain. And this sets up a whole mystery and a whole thing because the character that you play next is this character's brother. And now you're like, okay, what happened? Like, where did my brother go? And then you as a player know that he was betrayed by someone on his own team, and you as a player have this cool information that you are holding on to that you then later in the game learn a lot more about, and it balloons out into a much more interesting thing. But I think as a like starting scenario to a JRPG, it's super strong because it draws you into the world immediately.
Yeah.
You have this sense of like there's a war going on, there's characters that are dying, like the person I was playing as just got betrayed and it was emotional.
Dramatic irony is a hell of a drug.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's super fun. Like I'm a huge fan of any time a game like puts you in the shoes of another character for a short amount of time just to like get some variation. Love it, and especially when it's used for a narrative purpose at the same time, which Chained Echoes definitely does at the start.
Yeah.
And yeah, the first character is you're getting a view of essentially the inciting incident of something that's going to happen later is the sense that I'm getting from it. I'm not to the point where something crazy has happened off of it, but it's definitely a case of like you're playing an event that happened a couple months, a year, or something.
It's
in the
not
past.
too long ago. Yeah.
Which
It's
is-
not super far.
I feel like there's a little bit of some wonky time bits with that purpose for things.
Yeah,
down
I get
the
the
road.
sense the time is going to be important, but not at the moment we are in the game. So yeah, there's just an inciting incident that is going to be the cause of problems later for sure. And you play through this and you see like your party members and you have a thing I really liked here is you have a bunch of choices at the start that actually do something, and even if it's minor, like I don't think it's going to affect the greater story. But it's really cool that there's a character that you can be like, he'll ask you, look, if a fight's looking bad, should I charge the enemy or should I run?
Mm-hmm.
And you can be like, look, if you're the last person left, it's not worth dying. And then later on, you can find this character who's like, everyone else was dead, I ran and I'm alive. And like that to me is really cool as a player that I was able to make a difference just for this one character in some way. And I'm curious to know what would have happened if I didn't do that. Like, would I have found his corpse? Would something else have happened? I don't know.
Yeah, did you guys at the very beginning, because, did you guys explore the entire ship before going up?
I tried to, yeah. As many things as it would let me inspect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
there's a
talk to
number of
everybody.
decisions.
Make me feel sad about their deaths when the ship inevitably crashes, because I feel like it's
Exactly.
going to.
There's also a simple one too of like one person's just asking you like what type of weapon should he use or something, and it's
Yeah.
easy to respond to.
What
Yeah.
tactics should the ship do?
Yep.
Are we going to fire on full cylinders? What's going on? Oh, so fun.
Yeah,
There's
I love
Surprise
that. I like
important
how much
decisions.
small flavor it gave you. You then jump into a section that has a lot of combat. It showcases the mech combat. You get a little sequence of that, which is fun. You go back on foot. You get some party members that you can play around with that are temporary members just to like get a feel for how the game works. And it was cool because you see that these characters all kind of have gimmicks and they have ways that they function. Of like there's a character with water and the water is like a protective shield, but it's also a damaging thing.
Yeah, there's
Just
not
like
really.
your tank character, all sorts of stuff. It's very fun.
At least I feel like this. There's not really classes, especially because you can switch around armor and weapons and things like that.
There's
to
character
some degree.
roles, I think, less so than classes.
Yeah.
Which, to me, is always, I think, the way to go. Of one thing I tend to like in games, I tend to like characters having an archetype or a role and then a couple of archetypes within it, just because I think it makes for the ability to have a strong narrative tied into what they do in gameplay. Of like that to me is like one of the problems with FF12 is FF12 you have this crazy cool sphere grid and it's very fun that you can make all your characters different classes, but then what they do never ties into the game because of it. Which isn't a huge problem, but it is like a thing of when you can align them, I think it works better. Or if like Xenoblade's case, you can come up with a reason for why they can be multiple roles. I think that just makes it a smoother situation. So, but yeah, I think the opening to this game works extremely well. It gets you really interested very quickly. It didn't feel like I was lost at all. There was no JRPG moment where I didn't know what was going on, even though they are throwing out, like, this is a game that throws out a lot of terms at you, and a lot of terms you don't know at the start. And I think something a lot of people that don't play these games don't know is that, like, that's not a bad thing, because you're gonna... The reason it throws these terms at you is so you can learn them later. Like, it's to make the words stick in your mind, of, like, this is something that's important. And you're gonna find out about this later.
Not the UI, but some of the button mapping things for menus and things like that was a little unintuitive. Like because I played this again recently to get to get a.
Do you play with keyboard or a controller?
I play with keyboard and mouse.
That's probably why. Yeah.
For a JRPG, you'd use a controller?
Where do you think they started? What things you use a controller for?
I would generally, Alex, when we're going into Game Pass games, most of the time I would assume controller. for the easiest experience.
I'm the keyboard and mouse guy. I'm here to tell you how it plays on that. If you,
it's a valuable perspective to have, but it is definitely a case of like
in the case of Guilty Gear, it doesn't. You have to have an Xbox controller.
Well, you can play with keyboard and mouse. I just wouldn't recommend it. Like, there are people that actually do play fighting games with a keyboard and mouse type controller called a hitbox, but it is, again, like, most people don't do that because it doesn't.
A form of torture I would not wish upon my worst enemy.
You can be really fast when you learn how to do it, but it's super weird. It's not a... I don't think it's any easier than learning the regular way.
But yeah, chained echoes, it takes a little bit to get used to the buttons again after taking a break from it, but you get used to them again fast enough.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I like, immediately after that, you go into the section in a town where you're playing a couple of town guards, one of whom is actually like a royal person and who is just working as a town guard for some reason. And you like find a suspicious person and tail them, and there's this fun section where you kind of go into the outer areas and explore a like little cave system and get basically like a mini dungeon that I think felt very good. Your characters have like ultimate abilities that are very fun and very flashy a lot of the time. I just love having basically a limit break in this game. I like having that cool ultimate ability that's the hit the button to do cool thing. I think it's just a cool thing.
God, you're the main character's friend, his ultimate and then the thief's ultimate are my favorite to watch, because one is just a sword the size of a mountain coming up, and the other one's I'm going to teleport you to Japan and cut your head off.
It's just really funny because they're so over the top. Like, they're very classically Final Fantasy level over the top for like a town guard to all of a sudden whip out a crazy attack. It's super fun, very cool. The thing I really liked is this first dungeon I think showed that enemies have like very different roles in combat, and it exemplifies like target prioritization as an important aspect of the game, especially because you heal after every fight in this game, which I think is a really clever decision because it means you don't have fodder fights for the most part. And if you do, you're not concerned about them like slowly whittling your health down forever. You
and there's also
can just take them out quickly.
Yeah, there's also like so I found myself wandering around in the bazaar for a while because I was getting lost with certain things to do. I bought a lot of angel wings. Turns out you really need them if you go off track, because there is one gimmick boss fight that's an evil rose plant. Or maybe boss fight, maybe it's just an enemy. I don't know if it's a unique, but you find it in some forest somewhere. Its opening attack is to bring every one of your characters to 1 HP.
That
Yeah,
sounds
that's a
about right.
classic. It's a JRPG classic.
Your choices are switch out, or I hope you have some revives because it's gonna hit again soon.
Yeah. In the next segment, you play as a couple different characters again. We get that section with the town guards. Then we jump perspective to presumably, I think these are all your party members later on. That's what makes sense to me. I didn't
Yep.
get too far past the section with the thief, so I was being very thorough in this game, which I think is a good sign of I was having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the section that you do next. That is like a little town circus bazaar, where you're
I
playing
had all the little mini games with
a
rock
nice
paper
old man and
scissors.
doing some cool mini games. And of course, there's a mini game that you can like pay someone to learn the secret to, and then get unlimited coins basically. And then of course the classic thing is like they tell you an amount of coins that you need, and they show you all the prizes, so you know how many coins you need to get
Yeah.
all the prizes. And so you build up the coins to get all these prizes by doing these mini games, which doesn't take long. They're very quick. And then you go up and you get all your shit stolen. I think that's genius because
You get your-
as a player, I was angry. I was like, "This is infuriating."
and you get your shit stolen by the thief, and
Yep,
she
who you
has it in
then
her
play.
inventory.
Yes,
Awesome.
which I love. I think that's a really really good framing device for this opening scene. I think it works really well to establish these characters, and yeah, I think the strength here is that all of these characters have strong identities from the start. In a way that I'd kind of from this, like it sort of feels like you're playing Octopath,
This
but
felt
immediately
better than,
and with your characters together,
yeah.
which works better than I think the first Octopath game. I'm not far enough in the second to make a judgment call on it yet, but second I'm enjoying a lot more. And yeah, Chained Echoes, from what I played of it, which is a bit past that section, I thought was phenomenal the whole way through. This is probably the game of this bunch that we played that I think I'll actually finish relatively
Yeah, same.
soon. Like this one is going on my immediate to play list and not being shuffled off until after everything, because I think I had a really good time playing it, and I want to make sure I finish it before it's off of Game Pass at some point. So
Oh no. Oh, that's right. That can happen.
Time
yeah, it's,
does.
it's probably
indeed
still
pass in
got a
the real
while. I
world.
think
I don't like the fact that it marches forward uncontrollably.
Yeah.
There's nothing you could do, Alex. I'm
gotta
so
get used to it.
sorry.
Yeah, I'm really excited to play this because I want to get further in. I want to unlock more mech stuff. Because I know you do unlock more mech stuff in the future, and that's very tickling of my fancy.
It's very interesting because a couple of years ago they had a demo for the game on Steam, which is how I heard of it in the first place. None of the content in the demo has been repeated for the first
Really?
like hour and a half ish that I was able to play. Which is interesting, and it didn't look like it was like leading into it at all. Like none of the stuff that you guys talked about a little bit after seemed like it at all. Like there was like obviously like art assets and stuff, but like the demo you could find like a secret like mini boss where you fought like all the individual ingredients of a salad, but like they were angry at you and you just fought a bunch of like vegetables. I don't know where that is, but I'm
sounds
looking forward to that in the
amazing.
game.
That sounds
and it just
incredible.
it just feels like because that's not something you would get rid of. Somewhere the salad is in the full game, so it has the same attitude with like especially the way the narrative is handled. It has the same attitude of like a classic Final Fantasy game where it's like yeah, all these like mechanic and stuff are gonna happen, but like you know the story is gonna be like crazy. Like you're gonna be going to crazy places. All these mechanics are gonna like come up in the story somehow. And even though Chained Echoes doesn't have like the Final Fantasy level backlog of like specific like this cutscene is where the character will use the Phoenix Down item, but in a cutscene to bring someone back to life or something like that. It still feels like it like things like that have like a similar weight because it just takes itself with that level of sincerity, but also has fun little stupid things in it, like almost as if they enjoyed making the game, which is
Crazy.
you're not allowed to do that. But
this
it's very
industry?
cool. Yeah, at least for me, it's not on my like instantly I need to finish it right now list because that list is too full and I need to make another level of list above it.
And I'll clarify, the level of list this is on is after Tears of the Kingdom. Like
Everything is after that. For people that are playing Tears of the Kingdom, every other like human activity you can do
I'm
on a
almost done.
planet
I'm
Earth is
getting
after
close,
Tears of the
but
Kingdom.
yeah.
Eating, sleeping, breathing, that can
Yes.
Mhm.
But it is very good. I think because we keep saying all the games that we picked were good this time. This one is definitely the one I'm going to come back to play the whole way through.
Yeah,
at
I would
some
say
point
all of
in
them
the
are
near
good.
future.
Chained Echoes is a standout of like
Yeah.
Chained Echoes. I feel like if I were a person that had played this the year it came out, it might have been a Game of the Year contender. Like I'm seeing little inklings of this is got some stuff in there that I think is going to balloon out to be really good, and so I want to keep playing to get to that.
It's the one out of all of these that I feel like will probably most likely result in a games club happening in the next few like months. I could see it.
Visualize it.
Yep.
Make it happen.
All right. Final thoughts. We've already kind of
Manifest.
talked about if we're going to keep playing this game. I think the sort of verdicts people really liked it, and we'll get to it if they have the time. Yeah, this is the one of this. If you're going to play one game in these group of games, Chained Echoes is the one I would choose. Even though I liked all of them, I think Chained Echoes is really unique. And it solves a lot of the JRPG problems, which is nice. It just means it's not.
It is a fantastic first time RPG.
It's
a great
$25 on Steam as well if you don't have Game Pass, and that is
a bargain.
That's a good price. It's a
Totally
bargain
fine
for a
price.
game that is made with as much love as this is.
It's supposedly the main story is about 30 hours long, so it's a sizable game. Too.
Ooh.
All right.
$1 per hour.
Well, that's the games that we're talking about this month. Let's talk about the games we're going to play next month. So we have a list of things that are on the list for the next month. We're going to go through them right now. Everyone excited to play our next games?
Scrolling up to find them.
Well, see, I did the thing where I
is,
realized that I have to pull it up on my phone because if I change the Discord tab, then we don't get the camera.
Well, I'll say what mine is because we've already
it.
played it and we're into some like weird timey-wimey stuff. Guilty Gear Strive, which you may have realized we have streamed already.
Yeah, we did our stream of multiplayer Guilty Gear Strive. It was a good time. And we'll talk about it more next month. My pick for the next one is Minecraft Legends, which at the time, look, the way these episodes were supposed to go is we were supposed to start this next batch of games the day Minecraft Legends was out, and then scheduling hell happened. So we're catching up now.
Some of us have played Minecraft Legends. You could say that.
Have you?
Yes.
Yeah, I played it. I played it day one. Don't know how much
I have not
longer I'll
gotten
keep
to it
playing
yet.
But
Ooh.
all right, Wyatt's pick is Broken Age, which is I believe a point and click that I've heard very good things about.
Ooh, fun.
And mine is Loop Hero, which is a really weird. I don't know.
Loop Hero is
kind of a
excellent.
roguelike.
When I started playing it, I did not stop for an unhealthy amount of time.
It is very much a game that you may not stop playing until it's
it seems
we're
like
literally like about to fall asleep. So that's a bracket of games. Up next on the podcast, we're gonna have next week is going to be back to the normal format, so we can talk about the Sony PlayStation Showcase, as well as the games that people have been playing. There's been we want to talk about Tears of the Kingdom. That's really the big thing.
But with the PlayStation Showcase, we also get to talk about a certain reveal.
Yeah, we talk about some Destiny stuff. We talk about a lot of stuff. We talk about Marathon. Bizarrely, it's a weird sentence to say we're going to talk about Marathon, but we're going to talk about Marathon.
That's a weird sentence to say that we're unfortunately going to be talking about Marathon. That's the worst part.
I wish it
Not
was
to
under
say the
any
game's
other
going to be bad, but I don't think any of us are extraction shooter fans. And yeah, we'll get into it.
After seeing the new Rainbow Six extraction shooter.
Yep. Next up on the Games Club bracket is Signalis. That's going to be coming up hopefully this month. Now that we're all settled in and moved and everything, we can all finish Signalis and play it because Brett's been waiting patiently for a long time. So we're gonna...
any of you listening here, you should probably tune in to that episode.
So we're going to do Signalis next.
Joke.
After that, we're continuing the Arkham series retrospective with other Alex, Wyatt, and I. We're going to keep going through Arkham games into Arkham City, and then beyond that, I think Arkham Origins. So we're going through the whole Arkham series in the lead up to, I think, Suicide Squad releasing, just so we can feel the ultimate amount of pain.
Oh no!
When it comes out. That said, it's the end of the show. We did it all. Time for shoutouts.
I have a shout out. That unless Brett, are you reaching for something? I'll let you in. Oh, there he is. There comes
My
the
child.
boy.
There's your
My
child.
child
Nice.
Zeta
cometh
Gundam.
just
Verica.
just came out. It was my birthday present, which was like almost 2 months ago. But that's what happens when you pre-order something from Japan, baby. And it's gonna take me the next 2 months to build it.
You know what? It's gonna be a good time though. The version cars are very nice.
Oh,
Alex, you got something spicy for us?
I do.
There he
Terrifying.
There he is.
evil creature.
Absolutely
Dubious
horrific.
creature.
I have my shout out is I have become a part of the machine.
Okay.
Nice. A cog in the machine. Okay, well, my shout out is going to be look, Warhammer 40k puts out some interesting games sometimes. And sometimes they release one that's so startlingly good that everyone's talking about it, which is Bolt Gun. Bolt Gun's a very good game. Bolt Gun's not what I'm shouting out today. I'm shouting out Warhammer 40k Speed Freaks with 2 E's, which is a Twisted
is
Metal
that?
inspired free-to-play game that's in alpha right now. It's incredibly fun, and it's a bunch of orcs running around on giant cars doing crazy things, and it's basically Twisted
Awesome.
Metal. And
There's
it's a
also
great
no
time.
break button.
No
There's
break
no break
button.
Good.
You got cars with abilities. It legitimately feels very Twisted Metal. Great time. It's in alpha right now. You can play the alpha for the next couple of days through Warhammer Skulls, big game showcase that Warhammer does every year. It's there. You can play the alpha for a little bit, and then it'll come out at some point. But yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it was a really cool thing to see. Like, it's a great idea. Take these goofy orcs that love to build crazy death machines and then throw them in a pit trying to race each other. Very fun. Great idea. Can't wait to see the final product. All right. As always, podcast is going to be airing Tuesdays. We're going to do more episodes of wacky stuff. Next week will be a regular
I'm gonna
one,
eat a
but-
Slim Jim on camera.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible, Brett. I can't believe you made this decision. During the outro, too.
Can't do anything about it.